Hi there, Johnny Friesen coming at you again with another video explaining the year of 2020 via a whole bunch of graphs. You're going to kind of delve into my world where I analyze things. I like overanalyzing things. I'm one of those guys. It's very good for you that I overanalyze. Not very good for our investors. When you overanalyze everything, you'll never make a purchase. But that being said, we're going to kind of delve into these graphs, get an idea of what happened there, and you're going to see what happened with 2020. It's detrimental to our market. We're still seeing the effects of that. Everything's increasing in price. Your interest rates, your food, lumber went up. It's kind of come down now, but not to where it was before. They're trying to curb this with interest rates. That's not how we do it. It's about, balancing out other things, but I'm not going to get into all that today. Let's just look at what's happening in the real estate world. So if we jump down this graph, we're going to notice back here in 2009, it just fell off of this graph recently, and I'm not that big of a tech wizard to show you, but houses were selling right around this $400,000 mark. Then they steeply declined in 2008, 2009. About $200,000 value lost overnight. I know this because I just purchased my house, my very first one with my wife when we got married, right at that time period. We almost lost everything. It's pretty crazy. I'll make a video about that one day and share with you guys. Maybe it'll be something you can learn from so that we don't get into this mess. Maybe I should have made it already so that people wouldn't be in this mess, but my clients obviously know because I teach them every day. But this is for you guys who are not my clients yet, that don't get to interact with me and hopefully will interact with me in the future. As we look back down here, 2009, we've seen the average sale price of a home is about $195. As we keep cruising along to 2012, $197. You keep cruising along all the way to 2014, $212. It's only gone up about $14,000 there. And then there it went up to about $220, $230, kind of stayed there all the way till 2015. 2016, it started to rise, $240, $250 we're seeing, right? And then 2017 happened. This is where everything starts to change. Everything started increasing substantially. There's a lot of factors in the market that we can talk about, but basically a lot of people became aware of investment properties. There was a lot of income in the market. People were starting to understand, I think, a lot more about budgeting and understanding what to do with your money, investing with your money. From this point forward, we see a steep incline. $250,000 spikes out at $317, sits right around the $300,000 mark. So we're about a $50,000 increase. Then we roll all the way down to 2019. The low was at $327, another $30,000 ahead, or at the top, $390, another $90,000 ahead. And then you keep climbing here. 2020, we're at $424,000, another $100,000 increase. Then we go out to 2021, $500,000, climbing up to the middle, we're at $600,000, and at the very end, 2022, we're at $776,000. That's a lot of money for a home. In fact, that is the spike. This is where interest rates just went haywire. The government came in, said, hey, I should mention the liberal government came in and said, hey, let's just curb this immediately. Not slowly and gently like it rose, but how about let's curb this overnight? And detrimental not just to average people or especially investors, but small towns. We have small town people here. They're renewing their mortgages from 2017, 2018 right now, maybe even 2019, depending on what kind of mortgages they have. Now they're being hit with this. So this increase in their mortgages, you're talking like $800, $500 to $900, depending on how much your home costs back then, right? So it's a severe increase. And if they don't drop down any further, then they're talking about it dropping down to about 4.5% over the next few years. That's what RBC stated to us in our meetings that we do with them. They give us fantastic meetings to kind of give us a really good insight into what's happening. We had one, I believe it was the beginning of last year, and they said they were anticipating it kind of going up, staying there for a year or two, then dropping down. The next time we had a meeting, which was only about 3-4 months later, they stated that we should actually prepare for the long haul. 5 years, interest rates being higher, maybe not at 5.5, but maybe dropping down closer to like 4.5 and staying there. Oddly enough, if we look back at this graph where I was back in 2009, I had a 4.56% mortgage right back here, and that was the current rate, and that rate kind of stayed there this entire time until we started getting those 3% rates and everything else right around that 2014, 15 mark. We went down to about those 3% rates. Anyways, as we went up, we see a huge spike, and the biggest one that we really see here is in 2020. It doesn't look that much larger on accounts of this, but this is a big, big spike. And as we get up to 2021 here, see this rise in this year? There's like a double rise. You don't notice it because it's not inconsistent. It's $400,000 to $600,000 in 1 year. It's a $200,000 increase. Then this spike, this was unheard of, and we didn't anticipate this. Went from that $600,000 mark up to almost $800,000, but that was quickly fixed with the interest rates, and also it's just not sustainable. Those houses that sold there, a lot of them didn't close. But now let's look what this did in other areas. So this is the average sale price. We're going to go to new listings. You see a very typical, like look at this. It's extremely typical all the way along, and it looks typical till you get to 2020. Then you see this weird little spike in here. See this? So it looks typical, but it's not. This spike is non-typical. This should have just rose, came up to here, and then came back down like every other year, but it didn't. It dropped severely in the summer. And this is our new listings. So there was like no listings. We went from 1,132 down to 656, right in the middle of, that's about the spring market. Then it went up, and then it kind of carried a normal trend like we're seeing here. We're going to go over to homes for sale. You're going to see the same thing. Typical, typical, typical. The amount of homes for sale in 2014 was about 3,000 on the spikes. Same within 2015, and very typical summer market, winter market, summer market, winter market. Then we go all the way down here to 2020. And it looks kind of the same, but it's not. All of a sudden, it just drops. Right here, 2021, where you've seen that increase in price, we went from a regular of about 3,000 homes down to about 400 homes. It's substantial, and that is what happened during COVID and all that stuff, okay? And then here we're seeing a return to more of a regular trend again. We're going to go back to 30 days on market, 30 to 60, maybe even 90 days on market, and interest rates being kind of stabilized. We go over to sales. You're going to see the same thing. Looks kind of similar till we get to here. Then we got this weird little spike in the middle. Well, what happened here, right? It's typical all the way across the board. I'm not going to explain that one. We're going to be here forever. But days on market, we're going to see the same thing. Look at this wonderful trend. Very typical, a little bit non-typical. Then 2020, blah, it literally breaks. It's crumbling and falling to days on market to 6 to 8 days. Now we're back up to 30 days. But here you can just see it just drop down and just shattered from its regular trend. Here's the regular trend. Winter to summer to spring and fall markets. Spring and fall being the ones that are more active, summer and winter being the ones that are not. Again, here we've got months of supply. Typically we had about 5 months of supply at the high and about 3 months of supply at the low. Down here in the bottom we had less than a month's supply of stock. That means if we sold all of the properties that were on the market that day, we would have 1 month's supply. If nothing happened the next day and no properties became available again. So like no listings came available. So we went from 5 to 3 months of inventory down to about 0.9 and 1 and 1.7 on the highs. So we'll say between 1 and 2 months of inventory. Then 2020 comes along, it drops it all the way down to 0.5 months of inventory. And that carried on into 2021. And now we're back up to about 3 months of inventory, which is more standard, more typical, a very balanced market. That's what happened during 2020 and the aftermath of that, which everybody knows what it was, but it really did affect our finances to a degree that I don't think people are going to understand yet. They're really going to understand when you're refinancing these homes that you bought instead of an average home being $200,000, $230,000, to now the average home being about $550,000. In the peak of it, people were paying about $650 for a nice home here in the Elmer, St. Thomas, Tillsonburg area. London was kind of the same, maybe a little bit higher in London. We're going to see that when we go to refinance. If you were stretching it for that mortgage, because everybody was, because our incomes have not caught up to those house prices, we're going to really see a downfall in that. We're starting to see some bank sales come. We're seeing a lot of investors put up big portfolios. We're even seeing some big investors that have completely shattered their reputations by bankrupting and taking money along the way as they've gone down. So we're hoping not to see any more of that. That's unfortunate for everybody. Obviously, we want to see everybody do well in life, But you do have to have a bit of common sense when you're doing this stuff. If you haven't had a bad experience, sometimes that's the best thing for you so that you understand that it's a volatile market. There is risk involved with any kind of investment. And the more we wake ourselves up to that, the better choices we can make. Hope this gives you a good idea on 2020 and what it did. Have a great day.